Alright everyone, welcome to my Granblue Fantasy Relink Zeta build guide. Today we'll be going over her kit, skills, weapons, mastery collection, sigils, and some build gameplay. So without further ado, let me get into the video. Alright, so let's quickly go through what she does. So she has her basic attacks and a counter for her regular buttons, so let me quickly go through that. Her basic 4-hit combo leads her into the air, along with her aerial, which you could kind of do a launcher by jumping and attacking at the same time, into the 4 hits in the air, into her launcher. Her launcher is the main thing that's gonna set up Zeta's damage. As you can see, if I go ahead and show you, this character is mainly built to do damage around a loop, which is timing based, but it won't be as important once you get used to it. So yeah, most of her damage is in the air. So other than that, you do have her counter, which I'll quickly prepare like an example of. Alright, so her counter, right click or whatever it is on PlayStation, right? It's called Rhapsody. Whatever button that's aligned to it essentially just gives you an attack along with starting you in a launching. I can't believe I missed that. Along with starting you in the launch position to do your Zeta loops, right? Forgot to mention you have the combo finisher right there, which you usually want to do after 3 hits because it puts this debuff on the enemy you're attacking called, I think, what was it, Arvis something. Let me quickly do it again to look back at it. It's called Arvis for a Mare, right? I'll just be relating to or talking about it when saying debuff or something. You know what I'm talking about. It's just the debuff for the character. Can be applied through skills too, but essentially it just allows Zeta to do more damage to a target who has this debuff on them. So let's head on over to her skills. By the way, I forgot to add this part in. Just basic SB, self-explanatory, like Skybound Orb. Pretty good, right? Alright, so I'll go over all the skills and then probably give a recommendation on what you should be using for your Zeta as a DPS, because I don't know if running a support Zeta even exists. I guess you technically can, but that's like wasted opportunity. So infinite wonders, so essentially this pierces through enemies and is like a beam with a certain amount of range that does a decent amount of damage, lots of instances as well, and you have up to a few of them, so you don't really need to wait on her cooldown to fully come back. You could use it even before it's finished coming back. So it also applies the Arvis debuff, the Zeta debuff, you already know, which gives extra damage for Zeta. So that's essentially, you mainly want to use this for quick instances of damage or to apply the debuff. Let's go to Spirit of Arvis. This kind of just lunges towards the enemy. You use it to mainly get in to start her loops, so it's pretty good to have in your kit. Next I'll go over Vengeful Flames. It's essentially a buff to Zeta that will allow her to apply multiple instances of supplementary damage over the duration of the buff. So essentially, supplementary damage is a percentage of your the max damage you do with a hit. And I'll probably show an example now outside those little numbers that show up along with your main hit, which for me should be around 150k, which I'll talk about later. Wing Couple, right? So this essentially 3 big, really big hits that do auto damage, but the main thing with this, applies paralysis to the enemy, and what this does, allows you a little bit more DPS time. I'll talk about scenarios to use this when I get to showcasing the recommended skills you should have, because this is definitely included. Alright, so Rain of Fury, this essentially calls down spirits from the sky to apply a 20% attack decrease to the enemy attacking. It's pretty good, but I would not recommend mainly trying to go for debuffs with Zeta. You just want to just DPS away, leave that to other characters on your team. there are characters that are better off for applying debuff. So next one, Signal Drive. This not only gives you an attack buff, 25% by the way, but gives your party members as well. Again, don't play support Zeta. This is useful early on, I guess, but once you reach damage cap, it's pretty useless. Next skill, 1000 Flames, right? So this is just a bad move, I'm not gonna lie to you. It works, it gives you an instance of damage. You'll probably get more with Infinite Wonders, but essentially it applies the burn debuff which does damage over time. Not really worth using, especially when an enemy could move out of the way of this attack, so don't put this on your Zeta, please. And finally, Realm's Majesty. Now this is pretty good. It's honestly just parry or counter in a sense, which operates more like the I don't remember the name of it, but I'll probably show on screen now. The rest sphere or whatever, the right could still be active, and if you get hit, it does those animation playing out on screen right now. You could also start your loops from this attack. Alright everyone, I'm in post editing, so essentially I was going over the video, seeing it was getting a bit too long, so let me quickly summarize my recommendations on skills. Puts Infinite Wonders, Spiral War Vest, Vengeful Flames, and Wing Clipper on your Zeta in place of Vengeful Flames. I recommend this half of the time, but if you don't want to run Vengeful Flames, they have a bunch of supplementary damage sigils. Then you could probably run the Realm's Majesty counter if you want to. But I recommend it to have Vengeful Flames on there, Wing Clipper, Infinite Wonders, and Spiral War Vest. Alright. Let's move on to either the weapon or mastery collection section. It'll probably be the weapon section though. Alright, so when referring to Zeta's weapon, this section is probably gonna be small because I'm gonna be real with you. For majority of the time, you're just going to be using the Terminus weapon for every single character. There are select situations, like say for example with Fairy, which I'll make a guide on in the future. Well, she might want to use like a stun build for support, but regardless, majority of the time, please use the Terminus weapon. If you're early game, you probably don't have access to it, but to get Terminus weapons, you play the Proto Bahamut fight, which is the last power difficulty quest available by the quest counter, and I think there's a 5% chance, don't quote me on this, to get a Terminus weapon. And when you attain this weapon, it gives you catastrophe, damage cap increase, sigil booster, and I think regen is specific to Zeta. I'm not too sure about that. I'll probably verify on screen now, but catastrophe, damage cap, sigil booster are the big things about this. Let me show you why. Catastrophe gives you additional 50% attack increase and an increase to damage cap by 100% when your max HP is below 45,000, which it should be for most DPS characters you're gonna run based on like certain sigils and stuff. I'll roll on over in a couple seconds here, but yeah, try to keep your character below 45,000 to activate this effect, because especially that increase to damage cap by 100% is insane. You also have sigil booster, which just adds 1 to your sigil levels, all your sigil levels, which is pretty handy. Honestly, it's nice to have. Regen, I think specific to Zeta, not really that big of a deal, don't really pay attention to that, but yeah, that's pretty much why. You could also imbue it with traits of all your weapons with traits from Rhinestones, which you probably should know about from the game's tutorial. Other than that, lastly, actually, for early game, just use the Stinger, because you get crit hit rate and crit damage. You know, easy crit to that. Now onto the sigil section of this video, which you probably already saw from the weapon section, but let me explain them, right? First of all, this is a must-have on every character, not just Zeta specifically. Well, not the specific sigil I'm pointing at right now, but every character has an awakening sigil, which has 2 sigils you could get from Ciro's shop, which are specific to that character, so no one else could put a sigil on. So what Crimson Awakening does is give me access to these 2 sigils in one slot, so I don't have to use an extra slot for a sigil. So essentially it's just good. It's a must-have for building Zeta, right? One's more useful than the other, as I'm about to explain. Crimson Scout specifically is just the better sigil. You get 25% increase to damage, as you could see. Crimson's Fight is just something that lowers the skill requirement for doing her loops. It's not hard in the first place, but it's good to have right now in the Awakening instead of having to waste our slot on it. So yeah, next I'll be going over crit hit rate. It's pretty explanatory, other than you kind of want to have over 70% crit rate for all DPS builds, not just Zeta. So that's why I have it on here. If you've built enough crit hit rates before essentially needing the sigil, you don't necessarily have to put it on, and you have an extra slot to put another sigil on. Damage cap. This is a must-have on every DPS build. Most characters, actually, if not every. It's essentially increases the damage ceiling for you. You'll probably see me hitting 150,000 constantly. That's my damage ceiling currently. There are sigils that could get me slightly above that, which I'm gonna explain right after this, but essentially damage cap must have for all DPS characters, if not all characters. Supplementary damage. Now this is the thing I was talking about earlier, where it kind of bypasses your damage ceiling. So when you're hitting damage cap, supplementary damage, as I explained before with one of Zeta's skills, essentially gives you a percentage of the ceiling or your damage, basically. Like for every attack you do or every instance it activates. So it's important to have this. It's kind of hard to get. I think you could only get it through Trans Marvels, through the Knickknack voucher shop. Also, just Knickknack vouchers, using those, I think you might be able to get it there, but I know them more. You could get more probably from Curios, which is random, of course. So yeah, look forward to grinding, I guess. Let me head over to Tyranny. So Tyranny right here basically exchanges your attack. Exchanges your health for attack based on the level it's at. Right now it's 44% for me for 20% of my health. So I'd probably have more than 30k right here, but I'm actually glad that this works out for me, because I won't be hitting the 45,000 cap for Catastrophe to activate. So you always want to be below that for Catastrophe to activate. So this definitely helps. It's good to combo with Stamina, which essentially gives me more damage the higher my health is. And a little thing right here, when you are using your potions, you take like damage, right? And you use your potion, it's easier to max your health out when it's lower, because you could be healing for more compared to like having high health pools, essentially. So all 3 of these sigils, Stamina, Tyranny, and Catastrophe, well, I wouldn't call it Catastrophe, but the traits, all 3 of them work out. Now, War Elemental, this is the last sigil on the build. You can currently only get this from Curios, so it's all down to luck. So good luck farming and opening those Curios, but this essentially gives you type advantage against every single enemy. So sometimes you'll enter a boss battle and see that they have a weakness above their HP bar or health pool or whatever you call it. This essentially allows you to do that weakness damage, or essentially have a weakness advantage towards them, so you wouldn't have to play a specific character to deal more damage to them. The rest of these subsets are kind of negligible. I'll probably optimize this later, but good ones to have. Potion Hoarder is pretty good. I think this is a must-have trait for on your sigils, at least some of them. I have it currently on my damage cap, and what that does is increase the amount of potions you have available. So that's always good to have on pretty much every build. Guts essentially allows me to tank a hit so 1 HP, so I don't have to be revived, and it has a cooldown based on the level it's at. Auto revive is basically what it sounds like. When you get hit down, you kind of auto revive, and then it goes on cooldown for a certain amount of seconds based on the level. Always good to have against well, I think it's just good to have overall as a trait, because you don't want to be a burden on your teammates. Other than that, drain is somewhat useful, because every time you're dealing damage, it takes a percentage. Not a big deal to have. Everything else I discussed before was more useful than what I'm discussing now. Cascade, not necessary. For Zeta, is better on characters that have faster attacks. But yeah, this is the build. Make sure once you get to a state like this, or whenever you make a build, to save it, and try not to overwrite on one. Just literally delete it at the bottom right first. You see P for me to delete something. Please delete first if you're gonna remove a loadout, which you should have enough space. But if you are, please, because I've made a mistake and I had to rebuild this. So yeah, let's head to showcase 4 of the build. Alright, before we do that, I just wanted to quickly head over to this because I forgot about it. Your masteries, obviously you want to max this out on the character you're essentially building, Zeta in this case. And what this does, all of these stats you see right here, attack plus 200, normal attack, damage cap plus 10%, you want to get these. Like it's going to be permanent, so you want to get all the weapons so you have access to these. Uncap all your weapons, level them to max, and it doesn't matter which weapon you have equipped, as long as you level it up and you activate it with your mastery points, you will permanently have these stats from these weapons, no matter which you pick. So say for example I pick the Gay Bulg, I think that's called, I will still have the stats for every other weapon and this one included, so that's important to have. Additionally, over mastery, this is pretty basic. Once you get your character level 100, if I remember correctly, or if you max out the masteries, you get access to this. You spend 2,000, always don't care about all these, spend 2,000 mastery points to essentially roll and get some random stats. You want to aim for normal attack, damage cap, skill damage cap, and over 2 could be whatever you want. But yeah, it's not too important, but it's helpful. You might even get some of that crit rate I was talking about earlier, so you don't have to use a sigil. Alright, so we got into a boss battle, specifically Proto Bahamut. Probably not the best place to test the build, but it's endgame content. The hardest, I guess, if you don't know what you're doing. But yeah, this is where we're gonna test out Zeta. By the way, if you want a Proto Bahamut guide, I'm probably gonna make one anyway, so look out for that, because you kind of need to know the boss to actually play it. Alright, so he's about to land here. Usually activate the Vengeful Flames, Infinite Wonder into that, and then start your loops. And I usually just do these until, let me try to get Wing Clipper off. 1, 2. Unfortunately, I didn't get to pull that off this time again, but no tactic there. Do your loops until he's about to leave, and then do your combo finisher, or you just or you just keep doing them until the RSD buff has come off to reapply. Just gotta showcase that dodge because I'm built different. Boom, same strat. Also try to find a place that doesn't move too much to lock onto. You don't necessarily have to lock on all the time. If I could lock on to his chest, but that's not available for me right now. Quick tip, by the way, please just block before dodging. Don't just dodge into things. In terms of just playing the game in general, it's not necessarily a Zeta thing, but yeah, like if you see an attack coming, either just block it or just block into dodge, because if you don't dodge it properly, you could just block it. I have someone here starting the SBA. Someone else is gonna probably continue it. Then it's gonna be 2 only, and then the rest of us just continue after. If they know the fight properly, hopefully. Don't activate. Alright, cool. So one interesting thing about Zeta, she can actually activate her SBA mid-air. I didn't get to show it, but as long as you're not attacking and you're going after the person who activates it, so someone has to activate it first, and you see that little circle go around for someone to continue the combo, you can activate it mid-air as long as you like press your timing correctly on your lunge off of the enemy, and then you just don't press anything, then you go to the G. So it's while you're like floating mid-air after you do an attack. Don't do it while you're attacking. So that's pretty much it for the Zeta guide. Thank you for watching, and expect more videos on Granblue Fantasy Relink in the future. Well, I actually got a terminus weapon on the run I wasn't going to show because I brought the wrong skills, but essentially, yeah, I got it for id. Okay, good.